Donald Trump listens with Secretary of Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen during a meeting with Republican members of the Senate about immigration at the White House on January 4, 2018, by Jim Watson, AFP, Getty Images. As the Republican Party's latest attempt at immigration reform was melting down in Congress last week, I pressed a senior Republican congressman about the president's role in the implosion. It is easy to forget, after all, that Donald Trump ran for office as a management guru. He insisted he would bring order and effectiveness to an unwieldy, dysfunctional government, and immigration remains his signature issue. Yet legislation reflecting Trump's so-called four pillars, D.C. jargon for policy priorities, is headed nowhere. Round and round we went, as I applied every stratagem I could to get this House Republican to admit, on the record, what I already knew to be true from private conversations with party insiders. Republicans believe Trump is bungling an opportunity to capitalize on his unrivaled street cred with the conservative grassroots to create the political space for the Republican-controlled House of Representatives to overhaul a significant portion of the nation's outdated, horrible, a joke, the president might say, immigration laws. The congressman, a savvy, understated communicator, refused to bite. The new third rail in Republican politics is criticizing Trump, and he knew better than to pick a fight with the boss. The most he was willing to offer was an indirect comparison between Trump and Ronald Reagan, who until The Apprentice came along was the Republican president most revered as a great negotiator. Reagan led with clarity, force, and direction, the GOP. Congressman told me, though in a way that left this juxtaposition hanging in the air, like the wind-up to a joke that trails off without a punchline. Finally, after conceding defeat and turning off my recorder, the congressman relaxed and let fly his candid assessment of Trump, for a dispatch I reported for the Washington Examiner. He'd be Nixon to China on immigration, but he does not lead. The classic analogy, often used in politics, referred to President Richard Nixon turning China into a U.S. ally in the early 1970s, a risky political maneuver enabled by the Republicans' credibility as a virulent anti-communist. It's one of the more curious aspects of this administration that Donald Trump, perhaps the most hardline anti-immigration voice in a generation, hasn't actually been more active in pushing for a rewrite of U.S. immigration regulations. He's demanded a raft of groundbreaking changes that would restrict both legal and illegal immigration if they ever overcame bipartisan majorities on Capitol Hill. But in 18 months, the president hasn't bothered to lead a major effort in Congress to get it done. He's good at creating political crises, using his executive authority to rescind DACA and to order family separation at the border, but has no instinct for solving them. He's persistent about the construction of a wall, always looking for new and creative ways to pay for it, but hasn't managed to secure sufficient funding from his own party. Of course, the president's interests aren't entirely aligned with Republican leadership. Trump understands intuitively that his base is more energized by the thrum of battle than by a ceasefire. Congress, however, is expected to deliver results. And indeed, the decision to consider immigration just months before critical midterm elections wasn't Trump's idea. It was the brainchild of Republican moderates in the House who represent battleground districts won by Hillary Clinton and feel the heat at home. They threatened to collude with Democrats to force a vote on legislation to legalize 2 million Dreamers, undocumented immigrants brought to the U.S. as children who until recently were eligible for a reprieve from deportation via the now-defunct Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. To head off a major embarrassment, House Speaker Paul Ryan and his leadership team promised the rebel moderates a vote on immigration via the regular legislative process. But to head off a second revolt from conservatives opposed to any form of amnesty and another potential embarrassment, passing immigration legislation with a majority of Democratic votes, put over the top by a minority of Republicans, they loaded up the bill with key Trump asks, including authorizing $25 billion for the wall, eliminating the visa lottery program, and ending chain migration. To make both factions of Republicans happy, two bills received a vote. The conservative version included legal status for Dreamers, the moderate version provided them a path to U.S. citizenship. Both failed after House Republicans received guidance from Trump that was the exact opposite of clear, forceful, and direct. In a glimpse of what this president might accomplish otherwise, the conservative package received 193 votes, just 25 short of passage and far more than projected. The most astounding thing was that you actually had House conservatives agree to what you traditionally call amnesty, said a Republican operative active in his party's immigration wars over the past half-dozen years. The only reason they did that was because of who the president is. It speaks volumes about the dysfunction of the Republican Party that the moderate package was officially known as the compromise bill. The bill wasn't bipartisan. Democrats weren't included in the negotiations at all. Rather, it was supposed to span the divide between the conservative and moderate wings of a House Republican conference that at times seems so at odds it's as though they're a governing coalition of competing parties. It's true that the schizophrenia paralyzing Republican majorities in Congress predates Trump. Under President Barack Obama, and now under Trump, they have rarely failed to miss an opportunity, as the saying goes, to move public policy to the right. Nor is Trump solely responsible for the resistance of the Democrats, who have their own base to worry about. Still, Republicans could have turned the tables on the Democrats, forcing them to explain why they were standing in the way of the American dream for a broadly sympathetic group. Instead, veteran GOP operatives warn Republicans in Congress refuse to show any political dexterity or learn the hard lessons of repeated failures dating back more than a decade, to the administration of President George W. Bush. The problem is that every package is always too big. Nobody in leadership can resist the urge to try and do too much, a Republican strategist told me, downplaying the Trump factor. The voters demand security first, but every attempt in Congress going back to the Bush proposals holds security hostage to reform. In the days ahead, Republicans in the House and Senate will, presumably, debate tailored bills to provide Trump with the legislative certainty he is requesting to formally halt the administration's zero-tolerance policy of separating families with young children that are apprehended crossing the border illegally. Republicans fear the videos and audio of wailing children and distraught parents could turn into Hurricane Katrina circa 2018, costing them control of Congress just as heart-wrenching pictures of the 2005 natural disaster that devastated New Orleans and roughly 1,800 dead contributed to the end of the party's majorities in 2006. To that end, there is a bipartisan proposal developing in the Senate to address family separations, with Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell granting the effort tacit approval despite his hesitance to freelance on immigration policy beyond boundaries predetermined by Trump. Meanwhile, it's also possible Republicans get another crack at codifying DACA, although there's no indication the White House and Republicans and Democrats on the Hill can surmount the disagreements that tripped up two earlier attempts at a bill. At the end of the day, however, there is only so much Republicans can do in Congress without the imprimatur of Trump. Most members are smart enough to try to get something done, at least on immigration issues that present a hurdle to the party in November, said a Republican consultant who has been advising GOP lawmakers for more than 2 decades. But none of them trust the president. For one, the political incentives for actions are misaligned. Family separations could be a legitimate catastrophe for the GOP. But the president's zero tolerance for illegal immigration isn't the political liability Democrats might imagine. When many of Trump's policies are poll-tested, they often receive broad support. It's why he keeps bludgeoning Democrats as soft on border security and MS-13. The issue is a base motivator, and Democrats risk overplaying their hand, especially with the new liberal litmus test on the question of abolishing U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE). https://twitter.com/realdonaldtrump/status/1013976609290964997 https://realdonaldtrump/status/1014098721460686849 Still, the hardline immigration positions that could be winners for Republican Senate candidates targeting vulnerable Democratic incumbents in red states are of questionable value in battleground House districts, where the GOP is in real trouble because of a brewing backlash against the president. Republicans would like to avoid thorny issues for sure, in advance of Election Day, acknowledged a Republican advisor monitoring the battle for the Senate, which favors the GOP. But the liberal base is diametrically opposed to where the party's constituents are in seats that matter to them in 2018. That creates an opening for Republicans, and for the president if they can agree on an immigration package that threads the needle and gives GOP candidates a bill they can be proud of in November. It would also go a long way toward diffusing a potent Democratic electoral message that retaking the House is necessary to keep Trump in check. If Trump is the least bit serious about changing immigration law, however, rather than just demagoguing about it, he will have to radically change his approach, and himself. Right now, it is practically impossible for him to overcome the complete lack of trust on Capitol Hill, given his seeming inability to keep his word or hold a consistent position for more than 5 minutes, a frustration shared by both sides of the aisle but felt acutely by Republicans. If he cannot fix those relationships in Congress, they could haunt his presidency. The conservative base is prone to revolt over compromise immigration legislation, and that's before Trump takes to Twitter to finger Republicans for going wobbly on his aggressive agenda. With the proper assurances, Trump could soothe his base, bring Fox News in line, and give conservative lawmakers cover to pass a bill. But congressional Republicans have no faith that Trump won't betray them if they stick their necks out for him. Who's to say they won't deliver him a bill that protects the Dreamers, one of Trump's 4 pillars, only to have the president complain afterward that he never really wanted to sign a bill with an amnesty provision but was forced into it by those wimpy Republicans in Congress? Last year, House Republicans managed to agree on legislation to partially dismantle the Affordable Care Act, bridging the divide between caucus moderates and conservatives in no small part because Trump demanded their vote. He proceeded to refer to the package as a mean bill, casting anyone who aided his agenda as heartless. Republican strategists fear that the same political dynamic could doom immigration reform. The conservative base is loyal to Trump and in a constant state of simmering revolt. The party leadership is ready to act but is wary of taking a political risk at a time when Republican moderates are fast becoming an endangered species. And the political will to make tough decisions on immigration can't exist without the express, unwavering consent of the president. On this most recent attempt at an overhaul, that's what House Republicans said they needed to get a bill over the top. Instead, what they got was a president who went back and forth in statements and tweets, one day supporting the measures, the next day opposing them, the next day ambivalent, the next day unsure of what was in the bills at all. After the bills collapsed, Trump claimed in a final tweet that he had secretly released Republicans from voting for them, since they were consigned to failure in the Senate, where Democrats might have filibustered either of them to death. As if that was the problem. The House guys are tired of getting burned, said a Republican who has advised both moderate and conservative members on immigration. No one can ever be sure what his priority is going to be the next day. David M. Drucker is a senior correspondent for The Washington Examiner and a CNN political analyst.